Hello. I would like to share my screen, but I'm not allowed to do it. Have you got my voice, by the way? Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Hasan Can Hocam, you there? May I ask you to let me share my screen, please? Okay, thank you. Just a moment. Okay, I think now, shall we start, Hasan Hocam?
Murat Hocam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Murat Hocam?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, no problem with the sound.
Okay, Hocam. Thank you so much. We will start with you. And then
Okay.
Najm Hocam and Mehdi Hocam, welcome. We will then continue with you. While you are waiting for Murat Hocam's presentation, you may want to turn off your cameras if you want. And then we will go on with your presentation.
But I think first you
Thank you
need
so much. Yeah, thank you.
You need to let me share the screen first, I think. You can see my screen, right? And I think you can also hear the music, background music. Okay. There's no problem. Let's start because we have limited time. Good morning, everyone. My name is Murat Demirtekin. I'm a lecturer at Department of Foreign Languages in Konya, Selçuk University. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the effect of well-being and mindfulness on language learning strategies. I'm sorry that I have missed Professor Makarow's speech because maybe that didn't happen or I missed it, I don't know. I've been trying to connect for 1 hour, but I think there is a problem with the connection. So this is the methodologic study, and I will not go into details, especially the statistical details. I will just start with this, the definition of strategies, learning strategies. Since Rebecca Oxford in 1999 started the inventory of learning strategies. So learning strategies have been quite popular. I think it started before her, but yes, it's quite effective in the medium of instruction, especially when you're learning a second language or a foreign language. So there are different definitions, as you can see. So the behaviors are thoughts that are intended to affect the mental encoding process during the learning process. also specific ways of processing information that increase understanding, learning, and recall of information. And another definition by Ergen is it's a result of processing information in the mind. What about well-being? I think maybe you can hear the well-being music, wellness music. It's quite popular for meditation and concentration. So the definition as well-being is a state in which an individual realizes his or her potential and cope with normal stress and work productively and contribute to the social backgrounds he or she is involved in, we can say. So another definition of well-being is more into the hedonic well-being, and it's a frequent pleasant feeling or infrequent unpleasant feelings and overall judgments between two of them. So this is another approach of wellness or well-being in the medium of instruction. So there are of course different definitions of well-being, such as quality of life, subjective well-being, emotional well-being, experienced well-being, remembered well-being, evaluative, and happens, of course. And the mindfulness is a little bit different from the definition of well-being. So it refers to remembering and paying attention to our present moments. So focusing on the moment, we can say, in short. So if you have a high mindfulness, level, it means you have mental flexibility and you can easily direct your attention to the positive aspects of events around you instead of being stagnant on the negative events or locking your attention on just one issue in your life. So, in terms of learning a language, first we need to understand the problems of mindfulness in the age of touch-based digital world. So everybody is interested. So when you're in the classroom, if they have their smartphones, so it's easy for them to be dealing with their own mobile phones in the classroom. So mindfulness, helps us as a term to control over our own actions and focus on what is felt. So I just want to have a short 1 minute break from my presentation, and I will, if you, of course, are volunteer to participate, I want to invite you to join in just 1 minute mindfulness exercise on a video. Okay, I'm just starting. You're welcome if you want to join.
Allow yourself to be still for a moment and start breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. Don't worry about how loud your breathing is or if anyone can hear it. And there's no need to try and ignore any noise or distractions going on around you, or to try too hard to clear your mind. Imagine yourself as a rock in the middle of a stream. All the noise and commotion that may or may not be going on around you just washes over you without having any effect. Focus on your breath. Think about how anything that has negatively affected your day up until this point, and with each out-breath you are simply going to imagine any unnecessary stress these events are causing you to feel just ease away.
It goes on like this. There are a lot of videos on YouTube, so you can practice mindfulness. Get away from the stress of your life or anything that is say, regarded as a barrier in your learning or in your mind learning. So in our study, when you are learning a foreign language, the communication and individual practice and social learning is very important. Each of them are important issues to regard. So you are expected to recognize your own motivational and emotional difficulties when you are learning a foreign language, to remove your barriers to facilitate your learning, and also we can say try various ways of emotional language learning strategies. So why is our study important in our point of view, of course? So the psychological well-being, it is important to know the psychological well-being characteristics of learners. We will really know their psychological well-being attributes in their learning processes. So mindfulness and well-being, are becoming more and more important. So they have been around for 2 decades actually. And there are a lot of psychometric tools to measure their, levels of mindfulness and well-being. So in our study, we intend to raise awareness, of the important, the factors in the learning atmosphere by bringing together the factors of psychological well-being and mindfulness, actually. So specifically, we just want to examine the effects of adolescents' well-being and mindfulness on language learning strategies. So our methodology is like this. So the learning strategies first we check, and their special needs, we just make sure that they don't have any special needs while learning a language, and we have checked their well-being and mindfulness levels with some specific scales. So the participants were 142 high school students in Konya. So we have used 4 different data collection tools. So the first one was mindfulness attention awareness scales, MAS. So it was designed to assess the core characteristics of mindfulness and receptive state of mind when they can receive the information provided in the classroom, and their sensitive awareness. So here are some questions from the scale. So I could be experiencing some emotion and not be conscious of mind until some time later. I find it difficult to stay focused on what's happening in the present. I forget a person's name and almost as soon as I have been taught. So these are some of the questions. The other scale is yes, there are some questions and their wellness levels, adolescents' wellness levels. So the target group is, adolescents. I feel happy, I have a lot of fun, I love life. And these are the questions. And the third, inventory, very popular actually, if you are interested in language learning strategies by Oxford, 99 Medical Oxford. There are 2 types of strategies while learning a language, direct strategies and indirect strategies. And shortly, if you are learning the language in the classroom by using some textbooks with the help of teachers, memory, how well you can remember, cognitive, how well you can use reasoning skills, and compensation. If you have some mistakes, how well you can go back to your mistakes and how well you can correct your mistakes. So these are the direct strategies, and metacognitive is a little bit different. So this is more important. So this is more related with your personal choice of using your cognition. Affective is more about your, feelings, and social, how well you use the social background of the language that you are learning. So this is the scaling in the inventory. So if it is over 3.4, we regard it as high. And if it is more than 2.4, we just regard it as medium. So we have evaluated and assessed the descriptive statistics, and at the end of the study, we saw that so the age levels are as you see on the screen, and the genders are 74 boys and 68 girls, and the educational backgrounds of the parents, mostly high school graduates, and maybe 1/3 of the parents are university graduates. You know, 7 students are only children, and most of them are 2 or 3 siblings. So the descriptive values of, well-being scale and EPOC well-being scale and language learning strategies are as follows. So the results of well-being level and adolescent well-being scale by mother's education level. So there was no significant difference in terms of variables. It was the same for the fathers. When we look at the well-being and well-being level and adolescents' well-being level by fathers, so the Men-Whitney U analysis showed that the level of mindfulness of only children is lower than that of 2 or 3 children siblings. So it shows that if you have more than 2 or 3 siblings, brothers or sisters, so you can use your mindfulness better than the others, especially one with the unit child in the family. So these are the results. As you can see, most of them are medium levels, except for the memory, for the 12 to 13 years old children, and then the other results for the metacognitive strategies for 16 and 17 years old. So I want to come back to the discussion and results, and I will want to finish my presentation in 5 minutes. And so in our study, we just investigated the adolescents, the high school students' well-being and mindfulness, and their effects on language learning strategies. So the data revealed that the adolescents with high mindfulness scores also have high levels of well-being, commitment, determination, optimism, and interest and happiness in our study. So when we compare our study with the other studies, so at the low end, they didn't find any significant difference in terms of mindfulness. However, in our study, we found that well-being increased as education level of mothers increased in our study. So when we consider the factor of well-being and mindfulness, so we can say that people can better recognize and analyze themselves, others, and events around, around themselves, we can say. So they can improve in line with the life experiences, psychological resilience, and determination, such as sensitivity, so will increase when they have high level of mindfulness and well-being. So when we compare the results of our study, the results of well-being and mindfulness are consistent with a lot of studies. You'll be reading the details in full text when it's published, but I just want to focus on the specific points here. So mindfulness is also seen as an important element in the modeling of self-assessment when you consider the learning strategies such as cognitive and methodological strategies, creating strategies for life, and developing effective language learning strategy. So when the language learning strategies assessment in our study showed that boys used all the learning strategies except compensation and social strategies. So we may claim that female adolescents use compensation and social strategies at a similar level. And so these results are not in line with the conclusions of some studies, actually. So finally, recommendations. So our study determined that adolescent high school students in schools in Konya use more strategies as they get older when we look at the age levels. And based on these results, educational environments and textbooks and other course materials should focus on using their learning strategies in the classroom and outside the classroom. And the use of such materials should also be enhanced, and of course, teachers should help them to use language learning strategies. So the study also shows that well-being of adolescents should be supported because some of them had some poor levels of well-being, and educational topics that develop mindfulness skills should be included in the teaching and learning processes, we can say. These were the final words from me. So these are the references, and thank you very much for listening.
We thank you, Murat Hocam. I will present a little bit out of tradition. Normally, I was going to welcome you, but because of our technical problems, I just put it at the end of your presentation. Actually, we had a very good time in our classroom, plus our digital sessions. We had some sound issues. Let me introduce Murat Demirekin Hocam. He worked as a teacher of English at private schools and courses for 4 years, at state schools for another 4 years. He completed his MA on the interpretation problems from English to Turkish at the University of Nevşehir, Turkey. He participated in international conferences to present papers about the topics such as equivalence in tradition, ICT, and language teaching for a couple of years. He has been busy facilitating and coordinating the European Union education and youth projects in the local. Finally, he got a PhD degree in teaching Turkish as a foreign language at Hacettepe University, Turkey. Sorry for the late presentation for everyone here, and sorry for me to join you at the end of the presentation. It's also my first time as a presenter in these kind of sessions, so I apologize from all of you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Murat Hocam. Actually, as a teacher, I have some questions, like in terms of within the framework of mindfulness in the classrooms. It looks like in the UK, mindfulness has been taught at the level of the primary school, as part of the formal education. According to your experiences and your forecast, would you think that it's going to be possible in the next 5 years in MEB level in Turkey? Or are there any studies that you know?
After the elections, yes. Okay, I don't know. Yes, I'm not so sure about that. Mindfulness is an issue. Yes, not many people know about mindfulness. Actually, 1 month ago, we had a European Union project in Turkey, in Konya, actually. We've done a lot of mindfulness exercises. We invited the university students. They participated in the activities. We hope so. As I was mentioning in my presentation, yes, mindfulness, being mindful on your own feelings, how you feel about your learning process and how well you can learn. But these are the issues that we ignore in our curriculum. Maybe the prospective teachers or the teachers at state schools should be given some in-service training on mindfulness, and it should be added, as an issue in the curriculum. In that way, they can learn better, I think, because this is the age of digital and touchpads. And in November, the artificial intelligence started. Now everyone is using ChatGPT. So we should help them to be mindful, on their own learning and how well they can learn. So yes, I agree with you. We must add mindfulness in our curriculum in the next 5 years.
Thank you for your brief answer, Hocam. We are looking forward to your contribution in the discipline. Thank you for your time, and sorry about the technical issues again.
No problem.
Mehdi Hocam, I will need 2 minutes to prepare also technically. And can we make it sound check, please, with your microphone? And
yeah, do you have my voice now? Can you hear me?
It seems fine, Hocam. Just give me 1 minute for me to get ready and give you the authority. As far as I know, I already added you the presenter, so you can stop the sharing the screen and start sharing your documents while I'm preparing. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Mr. Sulhi holds a doctorate degree in English language education from Istanbul University, Turkey. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Language Teaching at Istanbul Medipol University, and his research interests include applied linguistics, psycholinguistics, educational psychology, and teaching as an international language and materials development. We are proud to welcome our professor, domestic professor here as a speaker, and I'm proud of presenting him in our webcast session. Floor is yours, Mr. Sohi. I'll be here if you need any help. And I don't know the YouTube visitors, but we have 10 to 15 visitors in the classrooms waiting for your presentation.
Thank you so much, Hasan Hocam. Firstly, actually, before I get started, I'd like to just highlight that I will be presenting with my partner. I mean, Najwan Nida Habib. So because we have co-authored the paper, so it's not just me and there are two presenters. This is what I would like to tell you. Najwa, actually, I can introduce her. So Najwa is my student. So at Sabahat Nizam University, and so I'm her advisor, thesis advisor. So we will be presenting actually a paper out of her thesis. So actually, before I get started, I was going to just give some comment to to Murat Hoca's presentation. Murat Hoca, thank you so much for your mindful presentation. So it was enjoyable, and listening to presentation. So having background music, so over there. At the same time, and at the end of your presentation, you talked about some and implications like creating kind of mindful, let's just say, possibilities actually, and for the learners, and also Murat Hasan Can Hoca actually talked about the need for the Ministry of Education. I mean, and curriculum changes. So I was just going to say something before I get started. Can I just say something? I don't want to just directly talk about my presentation. Normally when it comes to course book development, I mean, things, and and the course books, I mean, the MEP books, let's just say, are being criticized for not integrating and lots of necessities in language acquisition. So I mean, the activities are not communicative, and so I think after the outgrowth of positive psychology, and you talked about mindfulness, so I think more attention needs to be given to the course books as well. I mean, the course books that are being used by the students and prepared and developed by the Ministry of Education, they are not actually so effective in terms of including the learners effectively, I mean, emotionally. So they're normally outsiders, not insiders of the course books. So only the comprehension check questions and such kind of things. So that's why I think maybe the answer to Hasan Hocam's question would be just paying more attention to preparing and more effective course books, I think, and to the students and in Turkey. So that's my also comment to Murat Hoca's actual presentation. So let's just get started. As I told you, and this presentation, I mean, is a product of a thesis. So studied by Najwan Nida from Afghanistan originally, because the study was conducted in Afghanistan. And she's a student at Sabahat Nizam University, and I'm her advisor. So we will be presenting in this, this paper together in this session. Now let's get started. I would just like to briefly talk about motivation. So motivation actually is let's just say is the only positive psychology. So let's just say impetus that has been and has been the focus of attention for years, for decades, because normally and years ago, and before the outburst of like positive psychology movement, the main attention was given to negative feelings and negative emotion, like anxiety, stress, and such kind of things. But motivation actually has been present, and you know, and has been present and for decades, and even and before the outgrowth of like positive psychology movement. So actually, and when I say motivation, normally Zoltan Durnay is the figure. I mean, with his seminal works that comes in our mind. So Zoltan Durnay and Ryan defines motivation as like primary impetus to initiate into learning, and it's a kind of driving force to sustain the long term, long term actually, and long term attention, let's just say, and perseverance to language acquisition. So I don't want to just go over the details. There are some like theories and put forward by Zoltan Durnay and his colleagues. So I'm just going to quickly pass over the introduction, talking about motivation, but undoubtedly motivation is one of the key factors in success, in language acquisition success, let's just say. And there's a consensus on it. There are some theories and like self-determination theory, for example, highlighting again the role of motivation and believing that there are like some factors involved, like intrinsic and like extrinsic factors, and immotivation. It means a complete lack of motivation is again one of the construct that has been put forward by some theorists. So and there are some actually antecedents of immotivation. I don't want to talk about them, no time for that. So I mean, lack of motivation, because some students are demotivated. It means that they just come to university with some motivation, but they lose their motivation. That's demotivation. And motivation means that no motivation at all. They just come to university and they don't like to study in the ELT department, for example. I'm just talking about my own department, so no motivation at all. So just motivating some such kind of students actually becomes a bit more challenging on the part of the teacher, instructors. So as I told, the theories and supporting and explaining the role of motivation, like expectancy value theory, again, and something to do with motivation. So I'm just passing over the details. As I told you, the seminal work by Zoltan Durnay and categorizing the motivational factors. So as again, one of the things that I would just like to briefly talk about. So Zoltan Durnay talks about the ideal L2 self. So it is like ideal image of the kind. I would like to become a native speaker of English. So it's the ideal L2 self. So it's a kind of a drive and for the learners to study, and it's a kind of motivational factor. At the same time, ought to L2 self refers to the situation students have to study because of their parents, because of the situation actually they are in. They would just like to go abroad. They would like to have a good life career. So that's why they feel like they have to study. So these are actually some of the theories and put forward by some and distinguished scholars like Zoltan Durnay. When it comes to motivational factors, and out of the things that we have just talked about, so we can see that there are some internal and external factors and contributing to motivation. At the same time, and we can just say that, for example, when it comes to the internal factors, so we can just say the self, lots of factors are involved, like lots of personality traits are on the play. So to just help someone and to get motivated, for example, and having a gritty character, and resilience and such kind of things are also are in tandem with motivation. So motivation is not the only construct. So in psychological education, so lots of variables are included. So we cannot just, for example, put blame on one variable, or we cannot just say that this is the only personality trait that can guarantee in someone's success in language acquisition. So lots of factors are involved. So are involved to our antecedents, actually, are motivational attributes of L2 learners. So with such kind of things in mind, so Najwa, my student, so just came to me actually with some ideas of like developing a scale with the focus on like internal and external factors. And so she said that I'm just going to investigate whether the internal factors or our external factors and can be antecedents of students' performance in in language acquisition. With such kind of things, and she decided to develop a scale. So that's why, and she collected the data in Afghanistan with a group of students. So they like 18 male and 52 female students. We know that actually, and there's a limited number of students because in order to just have a generalizability, and I'm just talking about one of the limitations. So we need to access more students. But in the context of this country, I mean university, it was not possible to reach more participants. So she only reached 18 male and 52 female and junior students of English department at a university in Afghanistan. So with the purpose of conducting and a qualitative, and study to just see to what extent the internal and external factors are the antecedents of, performance and self-perceived English proficiency, let's say. So I just cover some details. There are some questions, and some of them will be presented here by us. So we focused on whether there's a difference between university students, internal and external. I'm just checking my internet connection. It says it's unstable, and I think there's nothing wrong with my voice, right? So whether there's a difference between internal and external motivational factors, and whether gender and age of the students can play a role. And at the same time, the most important question is whether the internal and external motivational factors predict their self-perceived English proficiency beliefs of the learners. So these are the questions. And at the beginning, and before that scale, we try to check the reliability and the scale. So firstly, and we conduct the Cranbrook alpha test to just see to what extent the scale is reliable in general. So it was a satisfactory, actually acceptable range. So that's why we just made a conclusion that that's reliable in general. We didn't actually look at the items. I mean, because confirmatory factor analysis was required to do it, but we conduct the principal component analysis. So that's a bit similar to confirmatory factor analysis to check the validity of this scale. So again, actually, and the sampling adequacy actually requirement was met. So according to the findings, so we just and can say that the scale was satisfactory in terms of reliability, and it was adequate. The adequacy requirement was met in terms of the content validity of the scale. So we come to the questions, and whether the first one, whether there's a difference between university students and intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors. So here, when we say the external motivational factors, we focused on the instructors and parents, because again, according to the theories, and they play lots of theories of educational psychology. So so parents and the teachers play a big role. I don't want to talk about the literature here. So in motivating the learners. So out of such kind of theories, and we decided, Najwa decided to develop a scale on to measuring such kind of variables. So there's a significant difference, according to finding, between the students in learn internal and external motivational factors. If I just want to go over the details, for example, and if you look at the table here, and you can see that, for example, the external motivational of students has been lower than the internal motivational factor. So it means that motivation has something to do mostly with internal factors than in external factors. It was something that we realized in in Afghanistan, according to the findings. So we're going to discuss it. So why we feel like this, so, and what the literature says. So Najwa is going to talk about this. In the second one, we focused on gender. There was no significant difference between male and female students in terms of their perception regarding the motivational attributes. So I'm just skipping again the details I told you. Analysis shows that. So at the same time, we focused on age, and because we didn't have a big range of age factor here, so that's why we categorized the age. We divided the participants into two groups of aging. So above and below, like 21. Again, there was no significant difference. So age was not a determining factor again in university students, perception of according to motivational factors. And so in the final third question, we just focus whether and students' internal and external motivational factors and contribute to their own self-perceived English proficiency belief. We assess the self-perceived English proficiency belief of the learners and using a one-item scale developed by Zoltan Durnay and his colleague. So measuring the general and self-perceived English proficiency of these students. So we measured actually students' proficiency in this way. According to the findings, there was a kind of, I'm talking about the prediction, I'm just passing the details. The learner internal factors are again more important than learner external factors in predicting students' self-perceived English proficiency. This is in Afghanistan. So I mean, although and we don't want to just mention a specific country, but the student actually indicated that. So learner internal factors again are more important than learner external factors. Lots of factors need to be included, and need to be discussed here. And we're just going to go over the details. And now my partner Najwa is going to just go over the discussion section briefly. Yes, Najwa, that's your turn now.
Hello, everyone. With due respect to the professors and the participants, now I'm going to discuss the discussion part. So the first question, or the first research question discussion, as we have already examined other researches. So several studies have explored the relationship between internal and external motivational factors among university students. For example, a study conducted by Gouet examined the relative contributions of intrinsic motivation and perceived support from teachers and parents on students' academic motivation. So if we come to the results indicated that both intrinsic motivation and external motivational factors significantly influence the students' motivation, albeit with different degrees of impact. So according to some other researchers, both external and internal motivation factors have effect, but with different degrees of impact. So the study suggested that intrinsic motivation again played a more substantial role in predicting academic achievement compared to external or extrinsic motivational factors. Another study was also by Wenzel found that the students' perceptions of support and encouragement from their teachers and parents were crucial in fostering a sense of competence, autonomy, and relatedness, which are key psychological needs that drive intrinsic motivation. So it means that these varying findings highlight the complex interplay between intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors in the academic lives of university students. While intrinsic motivation is considered an essential determinant of academic success, external factors such as the influence of instructors and parents can either support or hinder the development and maintenance of intrinsic motivation. Another studies shows different degrees of impact about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Yeah, please, next slide. The second research question about previous research has yielded mixed findings regarding gender differences in motivational attributes among university students. Some studies suggest that males and females differ in their motivational orientations. For example, in a study by Wakefield, male students reported higher levels of task value and intrinsic motivation, while female students exhibited higher levels of self-regulation and self-efficacy beliefs. These findings imply that males and females may have distinct motivational profiles. However, this is not equate in the present study, as Dr. Mahdi has mentioned. Similar to the results of our study, a strand of studies have found slight or no significant gender differences in motivational attributes. For example, a meta-analysis by Boyer and Boyer on gender differences in academic motivation across various age groups, including university students, revealed small and inconsistent gender differences in motivation, suggesting that the effect size of gender on motivational attributes is generally minimal. So that again, as it was in our study, gender is not so important. There is no difference among male and female students while we come to the motivation. Further research has also explored the influence of contextual factors on gender differences and motivational attributes. For example, a study by Simpkins examined how gender stereotypes and teacher practices influence students' motivation in science-related fields. The study found that gender differences in motivation were partly mediated by teacher practices, emphasizing the importance of sociocultural factors in shaping motivational attributes. This was the second research question discussion. Please continue. Next. So the second research question, the third research question discussion, we could say that research exploring the role of age in university students' motivational attributes as, again, yield mixed results. Some studies suggest that age is a significant determinant of motivational perceptions. For instance, a study by Van de Waal indicated that older university students reported higher levels of self-efficacy and intrinsic motivation compared to younger students. It means that older students have more intrinsic motivation compared to younger students. These findings indicate that older students may have a more mature and developed sense of self-efficacy and intrinsic motivation, potentially contributing to higher levels of engagement and academic success. In contrast, other studies have found limited or no significant age-related differences in motivational attributes among university students. For example, a study by Wakefield et al. Examined age-related changes in motivational beliefs and values across adolescence and young adulthood. The result indicated that while some motivational beliefs may fluctuate during this development period, overall age was not a strong predictor of motivational attributes. This suggests that age-related differences in motivational perceptions may not be universal and could be influenced by other factors such as individual variations or contextual influences. So, additionally, it is essential to examine age-related differences in motivational attributes across different academic disciplines and cultural contexts. Cultural factors, social expectations, and educational systems may influence the role of age in shaping motivational perceptions among university students. Longitudinal studies that follow students over time can provide valuable insights into the development trajectories of motivational attributes and their interaction with age. So this was again mixed views. And the discussion for research question number 4, again, previous research says consistently highlight the predictive role of both internal and external motivational factors on EFL learners, self-perceived English proficiency beliefs. Internal motivation driving by learners' intrinsic interest and enjoyment in language learning contributes to positive perceptions of their language proficiency. External factors, including the influence of teachers, peers, and family, can provide support and encouragement, thereby influencing learners' self-perceived proficiency beliefs. For example, a study by Raimi and Zhang investigated between motivational factors and self-perceived English proficiency beliefs among some Iranian EFL learners shows that both internal motivational, which is self-efficacy and intrinsic motivation, and external motivation, which is teacher support and parental encouragement, significantly predicted learners' self-perceived English proficiency beliefs. This study also supports the notion that both internal and external motivational factors are important predictors of self-perceived proficiency beliefs among EFL learners. Another study by Magog, Wei, and Oliver examined the impact of motivational factors on self-perceived English proficiency beliefs among Botswanan university students. Another research, the findings revealed that the internal motivation, including self-efficacy and interest, significantly predicted learners' self-perceived proficiency beliefs. However, the study did not find a significant predictive role for external motivation factors, such as teacher support. These contrasting findings suggest that the relationship between motivational factors and self-perceived proficiency beliefs may be influenced by various contextual factors and cultural differences. When we come to the conclusion, next slide, please. Yeah, in conclusion, we could say that the varying findings across the research questions can be attributed to factors such as contextual differences, individual variations, methodological variations, and the complex nature of motivation. So further research can continue to explore these relationships, considering specific contextual factors and employing rigorous methodologies to provide a comprehensive understanding of motivational attributes among university students and EFL learners. As Dr. Mahdi also mentioned, some limitations, so each research has some limitations like ours. Future studies need to be conducted with a bigger sample size to strengthen the generalizability of the findings. I have collected data from 70 students because overall students in junior class of English department in Afghanistan were 70 students. That's why the study only explores motivational factors that affect EFL University students' academic performance, examining the motivational rules of learners, parents, and teachers. As we all know, other factors can also affect motivation that should be considered in future studies. Next slide, please. Here are some recommendations for future studies. Promote a balanced approach, emphasize the importance of both internal and external motivational factors to enhance the students' overall motivation and engagement. Individualize support, recognize and address individual differences in motivational attributes, tailoring strategies to meet the students' unique needs, interests, and learning styles. Foster gender equality. Ensure equal opportunities for motivation and participation among all students, regardless of gender, and address any biases or stereotypes that may influence motivation. And finally, create a supporting EFL learning environment. Promote internal motivation through engaging activities, authentic language use, and learning autonomy, while also involving parents and peers to support learners' language learning process. So this was our presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope this.
Thank you for the very well detailed, very thorough statistically research structure. I will make an ex-ante presentation by using the same context. Sorry about that. Nida Habib is a highly experienced educator. Sorry, because my lacking presenting you also lacked some of our listeners to understand the context, but later on we just saved it. And apologize, it's all on me, not technical issues this time.
It's okay.
Is a highly experienced educator with a bachelor's degree in English language literature from Bach University, if I'm not wrong in terms of the pronunciation, Pakistan, and a master's in English language teaching from Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University in Turkey. With over 10 years of teaching experience at Bach, she has contributed significantly to the institution's academic excellence. Nida's commitment to professional development is evident through the participation in various seminars and sessions, such as the English Language Teachers Association for Afghans and completion of a course in Afghan Quality Alliances under the USAID, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Program. She has also worked as a teacher in women's rights and empowerment programs and taught Oxford English Language Center in Istanbul, Turkey. I, again, repeatedly apologizing for that. I always refrain from these kind of situations. I'm also working as a secretary of DEI in this university, working for diversity, equality, and inclusion in our university. So tons of apologies for your presentation.
It's okay. Nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you, and it was a marvelous presentation. Thank you all our distinguished guests and presenters. I'm looking forward to meeting you in our campus and in person. Have a nice
Inshallah.
day, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Say goodbye.